Hi everybody, welcome back. Well, more to the point, I'm back. You probably haven't gone anywhere, but I've been away for a while. I'm afraid to say I had a bit of ill health for a couple of months, which meant that I couldn't get to Flight Simulator, and then I had a few other projects and jobs I had to do. So I had between 6 and 9 months away from flight simming. I'm sort of back, and this is a bit of a catch-up video. I had to do a lot of updates and installations to the main software itself and to the auxiliary software, X's and O's and Stream Deck and stuff like that. So there's been quite a few changes. It's not a comprehensive look here at what's changed. I haven't been through every single item in the change logs. It's the bits that have changed that I normally use and updates on those to get it back working again, which was a bit of a challenge, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then I've had a bit of a read up with the BVARS, and some of the changes have happened in the bits of software have allowed me to have a bit of success. I've started to get somewhere with the BVARS, so it really is getting started. I've had about a week or so of playing with this, and I've got a couple of things working that have irritated me before that I haven't been able to get working. And then a little explanation about what I'm thinking about doing next. For those of you who haven't seen much of my previous stuff, let's get into the flight simulator. My setup, the gear that I've got a Logitech yoke and throttle quadrant, which has been working really well. We're pretty happy with that. And I've also got a Stream Deck, and this is the Stream Deck software up here on the left hand side. There's a little insert window that I've put in. I'll probably bring the actual software across, drag that across into the main window when we're talking about that. And I've got this MIDI, a Behringer X-Touch Mini, which is talking to X's and O's using MIDI. That's my setup. But for my birthday, I've got a honeycomb yoke, the Alpha yoke, and the throttle quadrant next door. And they're not installed yet, literally just got them. And they've got genuine hardware switches on them for the lights and things like that. For the GA, the light aircraft that I usually fly, I won't need to simulate the switches on the Stream Deck anymore. So that will allow me to sort of rethink and tidy up all the profiles that I've got on there. So it may be a bit of a fresh start that's going on. I haven't seen much in the way of support for Honeycomb on X's and O's, so I'll have a go and see if I can get it all working nicely. If I can't, I have been reading up about Spad.next, which is a sort of rival product. But there's a lot of crossover between the two, but that seems to have more honeycomb knowledge around, so it may be that I'm transferring to that next. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, let's talk about what I have done and what I've discovered. So let's have a quick look at what's going on here. So I'm going to put all my system back together again. It didn't work, basically. The lights were all, I could talk to the MIDI lights, so I could output MIDI to my MIDI controller, but I couldn't receive anything from it, and the Stream Deck wasn't working either. So let's just tidy up, turn a few windows off. Two things had happened. One is that the Web API port had changed in the updates. I think it used to be port 8080 and it's now changed to 43380. If you've got yours working, you probably don't need to know this. Yours is probably on the right port, but that's where my problem was. So simple job of typing the number in and setting the primary port and applying it. So that's got the Stream Deck back and going. The MIDI controller was a bit more of a problem. I think it was caused by the fact I'd used more MIDI instruments on one of my projects, and somehow the hardware here got confused. So that when I went in to look at, say, setting the heading bug, everything here was okay, but it had the wrong device name in here. I could drop it down and choose the X-Touch Mini, but it would have been doing that for every single assignment for every single aircraft, and that just really wasn't feasible. So I had a plane here with the hardware change, and found out that it had got various other instruments in there and had picked the wrong one somehow. That the Stream Deck 2 door MIDI had picked up and was trying to talk to it. So it was a question of going through and deleting off the instruments I didn't want to have and mapping that to that and replacing it. And the MIDI came back to life again. So it wasn't the end of the world, but it did stump me for a while. Particularly just hoping to be able to put it all back together again and have a nice flight. But we're there. Okay, so they were the sort of major changes that happened there, and I'll come back to a few other changes which are quite nice in Axis and Otis. But let's take a look at the Stream Deck here. I'm in my DA40 because there's some bits here that I'm going to demonstrate the progress I've made. But one of the weird things I had was the text here, where it's got the text on the position light. If I turn the position light on and off, or sorry, the taxi one, for some of them the text has disappeared on there, and it makes it hard to know which button that is that you're going to turn things off. And also for some aircraft I had this situation going on where I had it red when it was off and green when it was on, and that had been lost. So this is again me experimenting, working out what's going on. And what's happened is, if we look at the taxi, is that it's got this ability here to synchronize, link the title between the two graphics. If you just typed it into one, it would synchronize it to the other. Now you can just go here and type it in again, that will work quite happily. If you use the link, they're now linked together and taxi is on both of them, so it works. But if you want to have this red and green, you've got to do a little bit more work on that. If I unlink them, now I'll turn this one to red, and turn this one to green, and then we'll see if that works. So it's linking them and unlinking them, saves you a bit of typing. Now that means if I want to do that, I've got probably about 10 different aircraft profiles I've worked on, and most of them use this text change color to help me identify whether the switch is on or off quite quickly. It's a bit of work. So again, that's what's leading me to think about when I put the honeycomb yoke in, just restarting these profiles rather than trying to sort of cope with them. But anyway, we'll see how we go with that. Right, on to more positive stuff. Some progress that I've made. Let's zoom in a bit. This cover and master switch business, that became interesting. If I bring the Stream Deck software back in again, one of the other changes that happened is we have actually got access now to the B variables, either as an event, or we can read the B variables as well and see the condition of a BVAR. So that's quite interesting, and that's linked to this cover here. I couldn't work out when I first did this how to get the cover to lift. In normal operation, you would lift the cover, switch on the switch, drop the cover, and it prevents you from accidentally switching your engine on off. Yep. So that's what it's like in the real world. With my version of the Stream Deck software, when I press on this, the cover wouldn't lift, but the switch would still move within that. And I lost my connection to the simulator, so I just got to do a reconnect. There we go. Right, so if I switch that now, you can see that the animation is weird, that it moves within the cage, and that really shouldn't. It doesn't look nice. So we had a hunt for the BVARS that we can use to control that. So a couple of places we can look for it. Well, I can guarantee if I go into my scripting and look for a sim event, if I search for cover, it's not here. It's not in what the normal events. If I go for a sim variable, again look for cover in here, there is one local B variable that comes up, which is this situation of the engine master 1 cover. So that looks pretty good. That looks like we're getting somewhere, and it's settable, but not quite there yet. Another place you can look on here is in the extras. The old system of mapping your B variables to LVARS, your BVARS into LVARS, not really what we're expected to do anymore, but it does give us access to look for the variables that we can read, we can get them, or the ones we can set. Most BVARS seem to be both gettable and settable. One thing to note, these are bright blue. If they're grey and this is blue, it means you've got to scan and look for B variables. So do that. Bear with it. It takes 5 minutes, maybe a bit more to do that. So have faith, it will get there in the end. It looks like it's doing nothing, but it's hunting hard for the BVARs. Anyway, let's go and look for a BVAR. And again, if we do the there is a massive list. You'll see how many variables that it's picked up. The list here is tremendous. Lots to play with there. But if we do our search, narrow it down, filter for cover, we'll see that there is one entry here for the engine master 1 cover close. There isn't one for open. It's different from what we found when we looked in the sim variables, but it gives you an idea that there's probably an open and various other bits and pieces. So we're getting somewhere with it here by hunting around to see what's possible. The other place you can look for it, let's bring this into the front, is in the tools here, the behaviors. If you click on here, and you need to make sure that you've got the right file loaded. So I need the DA cockpit, DA40 cockpit loaded, and in the behaviors, engine master switch template. That's where we're going to start our search, and we're looking for anything here to do with the master switch and the cover, the master 1 cover. So we're getting somewhere hunting for it. And here it's reading the situation with the master cover, and so that's reading, and this is writing. It's got that greater than sign. It means you can write to it, and there's the cover open. So that's a hint that we've got something that we can work with, and probably later on we'll find another one. And so you can start hunting through here and seeing what kind of things we've got in terms of the switch covers and things like that. So we can see there. A good place to look, though, to be honest, is here, the input events. And I happen to know that if you go to the common, there's the engine master cover, and these are the input events. Now I'm not sure about incrementing and decrementing that, setting it maybe, but these are ones that are of interest. I'm not sure about the color coding, whether that is something or not, I don't know. But here we have we've got a toggle and an open and a close. So we have functions that we can put in. So keep those in mind. Engine master 1 cover toggle, and let's just close that down out of the way. So what I've done on my Stream Deck here, I've had a couple of little plays with this. Here's the cover, and to be honest with you, I can't get an event open and an event closed to work. I'm not sure why it's not working, but I can toggle by putting that in there and sending in a value 1, and down here reading the variable for the cover. So I can allow that now, press the cover here, and it should open and close. It takes a little delay at the moment because it hasn't used that one for a while. Find out with the BVARS that if you don't activate one for a while, you think, oh, nothing's happening, and then it picks up. But there it is. So the cover is now, I can open and close it. So I could do that button there and then that one there. So sort of like the real world. That's okay. But the other thing I did was thinking, well, logically, I really want to press one button because you're going to do it every time like that. So I have written a little bit of script in the test section. Right, I put it in my test section for the master engine, and it's called with a K event. So it is a toggle, but it's called with a K event. And if I look at my scripting here, so let's bring this in, my scripts editor, it's in my test section, master engine, and this is what it does. Firstly, it opens the cover, it waits for a second, it toggles the situation of the master engine master switch, waits for another second, and closes the cover. So it does it all in one key pressed, which let's bring that to the front. Should look like this. I need to move that across. Right. Let's try again. Sorry, wrong button. It should look like this when I press the test engine. So that's all being done just with a single press on this button here. That's the one I'm pressing. So if I press that again and press it again, so that works. So I'm quite happy with that. So that's the first piece of progress I made with the B variables. I'm now going to switch aircraft. So let's switch myself to the Skyhawk. And again, we need to pick the right file to work with here, and talk about what the problem was and then explain what I've done. So let's go and pick up the right profile here. So what I did was looking at these lighting controls here. In fact, I might have to change the time a little bit so we get a bit of dusk going on. So you better see the animation and its effect. So let's bring that back. So I'm going to click on here. It brings me to a sub section of these lighting panels. Now these ones here work natively quite well. I've got a little script running, and what it does is it changes the potentiometer, and when I I'm clicking on the minus sign here, and you'll notice that this knob is animating, and in fact the lights are changing, but you can't see it particularly what we're zoomed into there. I've also had a little script here, so on this indicator here it tells me that it's working at 20% or 10%, and if I click on it once it takes it straight to 100, and you can see animations happened here, and if I long click on it, it takes it to 0. So that all worked absolutely fine, and they're probably because they're quite old in their programming, so they use the old BVARS to do that. But this one here didn't work so well. If I press on the button, you can probably see that the lights here are brightening up. You can see if I now bring it down to 0, can you see that the sort of outlining and the text has dimmed to 0? And then if I bring the lights up, you can see that we're now 85%. And again, the central button here in between does it to 100% or to 0. So that's effective. It's just the animation here doesn't work. So I had a hunt around to find out what the behavior is for that. Now I know that this is controlled by potentiometer 3 because that's the scripting that I put in here. Yeah, so this is saying for a normal click, set potentiometer 3 to 100%. So I know that that's what I'm looking for, is potentiometer 3. So in the behaviors, there is a section here for the lighting panel, and straight away this first one here is looking at potentiometer number 3, and down here it says I've got a function for writing to the B variable to potentiometer number 3 and telling it to decrease, and another one for increase. So you've got a clockwise and anti-clockwise, which looks inviting straight away. So on my Stream Deck, come here, Stream Deck, what I've done is I've written a one here which is, it says increment on this one. So straight away what I did was I did an event B variable writing to the lighting potentiometer 3 to increment, and I put a 1 on it as its input. And if I press on that ink button, you can see the animation working, you can see the lights going up. And the nice and interesting thing is that if I hold it down, it doesn't go over the 100%. When I wrote the scripts before, I had to write some code to make sure that as it incremented, it didn't go above 100. It would without me putting my bit of code in to control it, and that caused all sorts of problems if you go roll over the 100 or roll below the 0. So that worked. And it would also work quite happily for the decrease as well. But just to see what would happen, just as an experiment, I did this one as a script. So I've written a script called demo panel animation decrease, and you call it with a K event, like it's a normal key. And if I bring this over here and I'll show you the script for that, RPN scripts editor, and it's in my demo, the panel animation decrease script, and that's all that's there. It's just literally we're going to be sending a 1 to it, and we've got to send something, so let's send a 1, and the arrow and B lighting potentiometer 3 decrease. So it's calling that script, and I can show you that that works quite happily. So if I now press the decrease on that, you'll see the animation going down, the lights beginning to dim, and again it doesn't go below 0. It's all nice and self-controlling. So that actually it's much simpler to work that way, either with the script, which means you can call it from other places as well, or putting it straight in as a B event. I haven't done any work on that yet, on the instant increase and decrease, but I'm guessing that it'd be settable to do that. So I'll play with that in a bit. So it means I can replace these buttons with those ones and animation. The other one I need to work on, I can't remember if it's the pedestal. Let's have a look. There's another one that doesn't animate properly. The avionics one. So I've got to find the same trick and do that with the avionics. The avionics does go dimmer and brighter. You can see the contrast working on the Garmin here. But the animation of this knob isn't working. So a little bit more to play with, but we're making progress. We're getting somewhere. Opened a little door to possible new features. Nothing that's dramatic. I mean, I could have lived without it, but it's nice to get things sorted out and to begin to understand a few more bits and pieces. So there we are. That's it. That's everything I've done so far. Back in with making videos, and back in looking at hardware and software, and hopefully making a few more videos for you. Okay, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.